Are you ready to find the secrets to living your best life and up to your highest potential? Well, we have a wonderful guest who's here to tell you how to do that on this season 6 opening episode of Live, Love, and Marry Wiser.
During the pandemic, I started down this journey on going from what I like to call healing to wholeness. Why don't you tell me
Hey, welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wiser Season 6. How are you all doing? We are so happy to have you here. Hey, Onita, how are you?
I am super fantastic. We're back, even though I feel like we never went away, but we're back live. So I'm doing wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. And we actually didn't go away, but we were not live. So we did take a little bit of a break from that, but we are happy to be back, and we are welcoming you to join us now because we have a fantastic guest. You know that we believe that wisdom is the principal thing, but with all that wisdom, get understanding. And so that is what we're here to do. And you know, when you hear the phrase unlocking your highest potential, a lot of times we just think making more money or stuff like that. But we have a fantastic guest here who is a believer. And I believe that God has a different perspective. Not that money's bad, and we're not mad at money. We like you to make money and do good with that. But we believe that there's more to it, and there's just secrets that we don't really think about in living our highest potential. And so we are excited about having her here. But before we get to that, Onita, how has your break been? I'm just going to ask you. Your little kind of break.
Yeah, a little kind of break. It's been good. It's been interesting. My kids are back in school full time. So I've had some quiet moments during the day where I'm able to sit down and write stuff out, like my future planning and, write those things down, what I will have in the future, and spend some time reading. I finished a book and I'm halfway through another one during this time, which is super fantastic.
Yeah.
And got now doing some walking and, drinking my water with my pink Himalayan salt in it. So
Love it.
Yes, it's been great. It's been great. So I've been able to catch up with some people. How's your break been?
My break has been minimal, but I didn't break that much, but it was really good. We had some really great episodes over the time that we recorded.
Yes.
We have some opportunities coming up. And one thing I want to thank the audience for, that the final episode of season 5, Do Only Weak Women Need Friends? Remember that episode? That thing went crazy for us. It has over 1,000 views right now. And so I want to thank you for that. And actually, if you watch that, please holler at me in the comments, even of that video or here, and tell me what about that was so engaging, because we do want to provide content that you actually are interested in. And so if we're missing the mark in other places, we want to know that, and we want to bring you different content that you want in this season 6. So we are happy to be back, and we think that today will be a good episode for you. But before we do that, it's our special time, Onita. For those of you who don't know, I am on an intentional dating journey. Had a few bumps in that road over the course of my life, but even now, because it's just difficult to go out and do a lot of things. But I've been out more than I had before. And I'm not going to tell you the story from the last episode. If you haven't seen it, you need to go watch the lowdown with the updates, because that was a nice story. But the point of that story was I ran into one of my last ex from 6 years ago in a place that I could not have ever even imagined in a million years. And so since that time, I actually was in the emergency room I just had this weird thing. We still don't even know what it was, but it could have been vertigo, but I don't know. It's totally gone away since I've been in the ER. So, but they announced it at church that I was in the emergency room and asked for prayer. And so then he texted me. He texted me while I was in the hospital, because I was there from Friday to Sunday, even though I wasn't like in a room. I was in the hallway, on the bed. So he texted me and he said, I heard your name for this prayer request. And he was like asking me how I was doing. He said, I didn't want to call because I know it's hard to sleep in the hospital. So I just didn't want to disturb you. And so he's like, well, you can call me and whatever. I was like, well, you can call me if you want to. You can call me tomorrow because I should be home. And he did. And we talked. And I asked him some questions about, like, how did he end up? He's working for the shelter. My father started the Shelter from the Storm, which is a transitional home for people coming out of incarceration. And my father passed away 22 years ago, but he is working there now as one of the assistant directors. I'm just like, how did this happen? But we had a good conversation. Only one time we've talked. I don't know what, if that's just it, that's fine. But that is the update on what has happened since. So, and I told him he could call me whenever he wants to call me. So we'll see how that goes, Onita.
Okay, well, I don't know how many weeks ago that was. I can't believe you held out on me.
It was 4 weeks. Because like the last update was great. So I had to have something to share with you.
True. True. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the updates. And I appreciate you saying, no, you can call me. Because ladies, we have to stay in the driver's seat, okay?
Yes. And Pastor Leggett told me, and I told him about everything. And he said, if he is interested and he wants to renew anything or talk about, he's like, he has to come to you. And yes. I said, I got you. I'm not mad at that. Because I'm kind of neutral. I don't want to or not want to. I'm just like, if God has a different plan than the one I had, then okay. But I am all about following God's plan on this dating road. Amen. So, and I hope that you all that are watching are also all about following God's plan. So that is our look. Before we bring a double dose of that, before I bring our guest up and introduce her, I do want to let you all know that as of last week, we are now on Spotify. We are on Amazon Music. We are on iHeartRadio. We are on Pocket Cast and Castbox. And so you can listen. I know a lot of times we are an hour and a half, and maybe you can't sit here, or maybe you don't have time, but you can, on the go while you're working out, you can listen to, we just have part of season 5 up now. But we will be now loading all of the new episodes, and those will come out on Thursday at 6 a.m. in the morning. So obviously you get it earlier here on YouTube. Yes. But if you do go over there, please like, subscribe, please comment, please, share it with people. If it's really content that you enjoy, we would love for you to share that, and also do a review. So at this time, I want to bring up our guest, Terri Moore. Terri is a certified women's empowerment coach and vision coach with a simple goal. She wants to coach you out of your past into a brighter future, and we love that. Her mission is to help transform individuals of any age, particularly women, to release emotional triggers, to find their true self and illuminate their inner power. Her end result for her clients is for them to love themselves back in the mirror, to give themselves a loud and proud 10. Yes. That is hard for women to do. drawing on her own experiences of surviving a dysfunctional family and abusive first marriage, which we'll hear more about that through this podcast. I thought she finally found her peace, joy, and security by finding her true, authentic self. She brings professional experience. She's a best-selling author, a conference leader, workshop leader, and she's the former executive director of a domestic violence crisis center. And now she is a coach, as I said. And she had the privilege of launching the first Empowering Women chapter for Networking Today International. And she recently celebrated her 10th anniversary with her company. She has her own business. And she has coached over 1,000 men and women. She has been guest or keynote speaker for over 700 audiences, which is amazing. I can't even imagine. But I hope to be able to say that too one day.
Yes.
She has held over 50 events and workshops with her company. We are so excited to have her. When she was serving as the founder of the Domestic Violence Crisis Center, she was awarded the Train the Trainer Award, Teen Talk Outreach and Education Award, Pet Excellence Award, and a Victim Advocacy Award. And so today I'd like you in the chat to welcome our guest, Terri Moore.
Welcome, welcome.
So happy to have you here.
How are you? It's so good to be here. I'm doing great. We have nice weather now in North Carolina. And before you ask me any questions, though, I just want to let you know that I would really like to see you go to 2 places to look for a date. Okay?
Ooh.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
One is pet stores. Okay?
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. So if you don't have a dog or a cat, go get one. And the other one is health food stores. And I'm not kidding you. Research studies show that those are the 2 places, plus church, obviously, that you can find your mate. Now I found my mate on the telephone. Yeah.
Okay, you all, if you're watching and you're single, which most of you are, pet stores and health food stores.
Awesome.
I will admit that I'm not much of an animal person, so I might have to lean toward the health food store because I am into that. I just don't usually hang out there, but now I'm going to go take my laptop and just like make it like Starbucks. They're like, we're not like Starbucks. I'm like, I'm making you like Starbucks.
Right.
But no, thank you for that. Thank you for those tips. Hey, y'all, you better take note of that.
Exactly.
She is a women's empowerment coach and a vision coach. So
yes.
If your vision is to be married, then you need to listen. All right, Terri. So I met Terri at a networking group that we're a part of. I haven't really been able to go in the last few weeks because just life. But thankfully, I met her before I couldn't go anymore. So, I just appreciated the time that we spent together. And when she told me her story, I was like, oh, I really would love you to be on the podcast. So, Terri, what I'd like to do is I typically like to ask people kind of like a little bit about where you are now, the thing that you love about your life that's just like really you feel like you're living to your highest potential. And you don't have to take that long because I know we're coming back to that. And then we'll go back and talk about where you came from. So share with us, what is going on in your life that you just love right now?
Oh, wow. There is a lot going on in my life. First of all, I'm 68 years young. And, you know, and people like, are you going to ever slow down? And I'm like, why? You know, if I have my health, why slow down? Right. So right now I am coaching, you know, women and men, and I'm getting ready to start up some webinars soon. And I'm also in the process of relaunching my first book that we'll talk about later, but I'm also in the process of writing my second book. Now, on top of all that, I am also getting out there to speak throughout the United States. So that's where I'm at today.
I love that. I love that. Well, since you brought up the book, let's talk about it. Tell
Sure.
us a little
I
bit
love
about
to.
Face to Face with God, which is obviously an amazing title. My Best Friend, that's even more amazing. So tell us a little bit about how this book came to be.
Absolutely. When I became a Christian and walking with God 38 years ago, I never really had a best friend that I felt really comfortable with. And over the days after I became a Christian and was baptized, I just fell in love with God, his character and everything like that. But the reason I added the title "My Best Friend" is because he saved me from a very, very traumatic situation, and I can go into it now. I can go into it later, but basically, it was a traumatic situation, and if it wasn't for God, I would be dead today, and I would not be speaking to you at all. And
Wow.
this book was written, for practicals and tips, but it's also a story about me and how I went from being a 0 person all the way up to a loud and proud 10. 10.
10. Every time we say 10, you got to do this. So,
Yep.
What I want to say about the book is that Terri is actually going to give away a copy of this book to whoever is in the chat and who makes the most comments and who engages with us. And so we're looking forward to you doing that, and you get this free book, and it'll be signed, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
So that's what's good. And we'll come back to even more fuller detail, but let's go back to where you said you were a 0, or at least you felt like you were a 0. And just bring us up to talk about that. And then we'll kind of talk about how you got to, because going from 0 to 10 in anything is pretty amazing. And so we definitely want to learn from you how that happened.
Sure. So basically what happened was, like many of us listening out there, I was raised in a dysfunctional family. My parents were alcoholics. My brother was a bully, and I'll go back to that in a minute. But my mom and dad always made me feel like I was not enough, no matter what I tried. No matter how I thought that I was going to get praise and compliments, I never received that. And because they were drinking a lot on the weekends, I always felt like I always had abandonment issues. And then my brother, he was 7 years older than me, and he would say things to me like, "You're trash. I don't even know why mom and dad had you," and different things like that. And so all those words. Then I was in the first day of kindergarten, right? It's supposed to be your independent day. It's supposed to be your bye-bye mommy, bye-bye daddy day. And within 5 minutes, everything changed. I had a little boy come up to me and ask me 3 questions that held me hostage for many years, even into my adult life.
Wow.
Why are you so ugly? Why does your hair look like it came out of a light socket? And why does your clothes look like it came out of a dumpster? And those 3 things just crushed me. And on top of that, the very first day of kindergarten, he got some of his friends to start ridiculing me as well. It was a horrible experience. And lucky me, I had to be in the homerooms with them for 6 long years being tortured. And I tried to find him on Facebook. Before, because I want to talk to him. I really do. And I want to let him know that I forgive him and everything like that. I also want to tell him that he helped shape me the woman who I am today, And so fast forward when I was 27 years old. This is really fast forward. I thought I met the man of my dreams, and he swept me off my feet and everything but the white horse. And he fell in love with me. I fell in love with him. And see, he had told me that he had been in the Marine Corps for 9 years before we met. But one day after we got married, I found out on my own accord that he lied to me. Ladies, he said he was in the Marine Corps when he was in prison for first degree murder. Yes, that's the reaction I get from stages, trust me.
Wow.
And so
that's a big
here
difference.
I am. Oh, it's a big difference, yes. So all of a sudden now here I am, I'm living with a murderer, and people always ask me, why did you go back to him? Because he threatened to kill me, my cat, and my parents, plus burn the house down. So once the secret was out, he became very violent, hit me in the face, always had black eyes, trying to break my bones. He would hold me hostage, even to the point where he'd take my money every time I came home from work as a waitress. But during that time, I became a full-fledged alcoholic. I became a drug dealer. I needed to have money, so I went out and I hustled pool. So I became the #1 female pool hustler in the state of Indiana. And then, I got hooked up with a group that helped me sell these drugs, and so he didn't get that money. I can tell you that, women.
Wow.
But the one thing about it is that I was a mess. I was tripping out on Valium, Jack Daniels, everything. And so 3 days after our divorce was final, I looked in the mirror and I said, you need to get your act together. Okay. And I mean, by then I lost all my self-respect, self-confidence. I was a zero. I lost my identity, because when a man does that to a woman, that's what happens. All that goes away. You don't know who you are. And so I said to myself, you're going to go to a shopping center, and you're going to get some makeup, and you're going to get a new wardrobe, and you're going to charge it to his credit card. So off I went. And as I was approaching the department store, a man approached me with a knife and held it up to my throat and walked me back into the car and attempted to rape me and steal my money. And then he drove me around the parking lot with a knife to my throat and into my breast. And then I knew my life was at stake, because one of the things that happened 3 weeks before that, there was a woman that was killed in the same shopping center and stuffed in the trunk to die. So I knew I was fighting for my life that day. So here's why I call my book My Best Friend, because that day I was at my wit's end. I didn't know what else to do. So I prayed and I said, God, I don't know you. I don't walk with you. I don't go to church. I'm a sinner. But if you get me out of this situation alive, I will turn my life over to you for the remainder of my days. And do you know what happened next? 3 seconds later, that knife came off my throat, and he opened my car door and told me to get out. Now, there's a long story behind all this, but I sent the man to prison for 30 years. And 3 weeks later, I know, hallelujah, right? Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yes. And I didn't want him to hurt another person. And so 3 weeks later, I was met at a restaurant by a woman that I used to party with and do drugs with in high school. And I was going to ask her to have a drink, and she invited me to her boyfriend's Bible talk. Now, talk about a switch there. And I was like, Bible talk? Really? But then I remembered the prayer that I prayed to get out of that situation.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? I'd love to come. Now, it took me a little bit longer for them to get me to church, because, I was a challenge. But anyway, so as I studied the Bible, I was baptized over 38 years ago. I went from a 0 to a 5. Okay. Wasn't there yet.
Okay.
But then I got to the point.
Before you go on,
Okay.
I want to ask about that. Two things I want to ask. Did you have any religious affiliation growing up? Like, did you ever go to church? Did y'all ever pray? Any of that before that moment? Wow,
No.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
No.
And the other thing is, I just want to highlight even that you said you went from a 0 to a 5, because a lot of times people think, oh, when you get converted, everything just turns around emotionally and mentally.
Yes.
psychologically, and now you think you have like the greatest self-worth, and like you don't need anything else. And obviously we are Christians, we wholeheartedly believe in the blood of the Lamb that has covered us, but you were like, no, I went from a 0 to a 5, but I didn't go to a 10. So tell us about that. Go ahead, continue the story. Hold on a second. I mean, you all keep going. Someone's knocking.
Someone's knocking. Okay, sure. So basically what happened is I kept hearing these comments, these compliments, you know. It's like, oh, you're so pretty, or, you know, or I love your dress. And they'd be like, where'd you get your dress? I'm like, Goodwill, you know. And it was just, I mean, it was so obvious I had so low self-esteem, even walking with God, you know, because I was trying to figure this out. And so what happened is I said to God one day, I said, I want to see what these people see in me. You know, when I look in the mirror, I don't see what they see, but I need to see what they see. And so I went on my own discovery journey that obviously now I have applied that to my coaching program. So that's how I teach my clients. Yes. And so what I did is I went on my own journey to discover who the heck I was. You know, who was I? Who was Terri? And so through that journey, I learned how to become an authentic person. I learned how to forgive myself and others. And I came out swimmingly successful. I mean, when I look back, it's like, I looked in the mirror the next day and I'm like, I don't even, who are you? You know, because the real Terri was coming out. But here's what happens is when we're not releasing that baggage, okay, that's going to keep you on that scale of 0 to maybe 6. Okay. So when I say I went from 0, when I went through my own personal journey, I came out looking in the mirror. I am a loud and proud 10.
Yes.
10.
Yes, 10. I know where I've been and I know where I'm going.
Yes.
And so when I see my clients on a weekly basis, I ask them this question every time. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, where do you see yourself loving yourself back in the mirror? So that's my journey.
I love that. I love that. Oh,
It's so awesome.
this is a live TV, so I'm just going to tell y'all what just happened. I recorded the church, and usually I'm by myself. And then I just heard this loud, crazy banging on I was just like terrified. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Well, some people they're having a music day. And so some people here at practice, someone couldn't get in. So I was just like, okay, great. But you know, I'm
glad you're okay.
Yes,
okay. So I missed some of that, but I've talked to you before. So I want to now go slower through, like, what are the steps that I know obviously you can't like coach a whole group of people and whatever right now, but just like some steps that people can take, because we've been fooled into thinking that, you know, just you get baptized and you come to church and everything's great after that. But so many people are suffering in silence because they're afraid to say, yeah, but I'm not okay. I love the Lord. I want to serve him, but I'm still not okay. So how do we get from I'm not okay, I know that I can't be okay because of Christ, but I'm not. So how do you help people kind of navigate that?
Sure. Great question. What I do with my clients is we go through what we call a negative emotional clearing chart. And first of all, I do it with themselves. They have to circle every negative thing they feel about themselves right now, not in the past, but right now. And so we circle around those words and I get the story behind that. And that really helps them to understand that, wow, some of the stuff that I've circled is not my fault. You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
and that's the one thing. It's just like being addicted, you know. Back then I admitted it. I was an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. That's what I used to admit, right? So they have to admit that this stuff that happened to them, molestation, sexual assault, anything like that, was not their fault. And when they recognize that for the first time, then they can move on to the next stage, which I do a lot of self-esteem areas to build their self-esteem up.
Mhm.
And then I also take them to forgiveness, and so if any, the people that are listening out there, if you have not forgiven yourself. And I'll tell you how. It's because you're beating yourself up. You're beating yourself up, and there's somebody or some circumstance that has robbed you to feel that freedom. So they have stolen the power away from you. And as a coach, that's what I do with my clients. I get them plugged back in and no longer listening to those horrible voices that made them feel the way they are today.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
awesome. And I love you start with the negative emotion clearing chart, because a lot of times when you even ask people, how are you doing? They go, I'm good. But really, there's so many more emotions there that we need to identify, and that we're not good. Yeah, I may be doing good, but let's talk about these emotions. So I think that it's just great that you go through that process and helping them recognize where it stemmed from, what seed, where that was planted, where the lie was, right? Because those are not things God feels about them. And then how to let us uproot them so that we now can rebuild and plant new seeds to build them up. So now let's build up the esteem, and then let's process the forgiveness. And I love that you didn't say forgive your mom or dad. You said have them help forgive themselves first. And I don't think many times people recognize that part of the time we are mad at ourselves. That we are mad because I let this person, I let this guy mistreat me for so many years. So now I don't even think I deserve good love because I was so dumb or so weak during this time frame. And so
I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't defend myself. I didn't tell all of these different things that we internalize about why it's our fault or why there's some blame on us. So no, that's a great point, Onita.
Yeah. And that now shame off you. So now shame off you, forgive yourself so that you can now continue on to your journey of becoming this 10. So I think it's great. And I'm taking notes. I don't know about y'all. Get your notes in.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then what happens? She might be. Are you frozen? Are you hearing? Oh, are you there?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay.
I'm here. What? I didn't hear what you said.
After they do the negative emotion clearing chart and kind of work through the forgiveness of themselves, what happens after that?
Then we go to the next person that has done the number on them and stole their power. So 90% of the time it's the dad. The dad has either abandoned them, been distant, not nurturing them. They divorced. He's in prison. I'm dealing with somebody right now. I'm working with a client right now that her dad's in prison. And that's been a hard pill for her to swallow. Yes. But then after that is when I start going into like the self-esteem areas, because there's 9 areas that can knock down your self-esteem in a bloody second.
Wow. 9. Wow, that's a lot. What are some of those? You don't have to give us all 9, but what are some of those?
Oh, believe it or not, time management. Time management can steal your self-confidence.
Wow, talk about that. Talk about that for you. We are having a like what? That's totally not anything I would have expected you to say. But yeah, explain that.
Well, okay, so if if we do not have time management secured down and say that we're late for meetings all the time and we have to walk in late, that can take down our self-esteem.
Okay.
That can take down our people. You start feeling like people aren't respecting you, even though you got stopped at a train that lasted 45 minutes, and you're walking into the meeting 15 minutes late, different things like that. The other one is the big one. This is a big one. It's procrastination. Procrastination can steal your self-confidence.
Nice.
I can
Right.
believe
And I'm
that.
speaking from experience there. So,
Absolutely.
the other one is, like, say for instance, you have an addiction and you're trying to beat it, but the addiction's really beating you. Well, the addiction's beating you into a self-esteem toilet is what I call it.
Mhm.
Self-esteem toilet. Okay.
Wow.
People that stay up late, okay, and they know they shouldn't, and they wake up the next morning and they're tired, they're unmotivated, they hardly can get through the day, and guess what? They're beating themselves up, but they can't stop it. So the next night it's the same thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
So
same
yeah,
cycle.
even going back to procrastination, and I don't know if this is on your list, but even when you don't keep your word to yourself, like say you say you're gonna go to the gym or whatever, and 3 times a week, and then you don't do that. One time is not that bad, but if it becomes a cycle, you don't even have integrity with yourself, and so you feel like, oh, I can't accomplish this. I'm not, you made it's obviously a lot of this is not even conscious, but we act on that. And so the more we don't live up to our word to ourselves, even if we may be completely integrous with everybody else, but when we're not living up to our word to ourselves, it does have a damaging effect on our self-esteem.
Yes.
Yes, almost certainly. Most certainly. There's other ones. So here's the big one. And we at times we've all struggled with this, is weight issues. Weight issues can take you down in a moment. That scale, you get on that scale and you gain weight. Guess what? If you're not a strong person to deal with that, like I picked up weight. I'm just going to be very vulnerable here with the audience, but I had picked up weight, and I get on that scale and I'm like, I don't beat myself up, but what I do is I go, well, wasn't expecting that today, and you've got to do better today. So you got to talk yourself up out of it,
Yes.
No more, or I'll get on the scale and I'll see the pound go up, and I'll go, no sugar for you today, lady. You just got to talk to yourself all the time.
Yes. That's absolutely 100% true.
Yes, you have to.
Do you think that you can, when you say I'm a 10, are you saying, well, let me not ask it this way. Let me say, when you say, I can look in the mirror and say I'm a 10, what does that mean to you? How do you define that? Because I'll just let you define it and then I'll comment.
That's a great question. And I get asked this a lot. Okay. How did I do? Why do I keep saying I'm a 10? Can I go backwards? Heck no, I'm not going backwards.
Yeah, we don't want to go backwards.
Right. Because when I look in the mirror and I have, I have gray hair, or, you've got bags under your eyes, or, you see another crow's line, it's not about that score, and that's what I try to tell everybody. It's not that score I'm looking for. I'm looking for where you've been and where you're going, and in between, how much do you love yourself? And then the light bulb goes on, and you know. So I know where I've been. I've come out of a lot of traumatic situation that I just shared with y'all.
Mhm.
Okay. I went on my own spiritual journey, my own coaching journey.
Right.
And then I'm moving on. I know where my future, I always allow God to direct my future. Don't get me wrong. So
Right.
what I'm thinking, he might be thinking a whole different story here, but you know, does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
That makes perfect sense, because I think that a lot of people, of course, when you hear that number, you associated it with something that the world has established as just really superficial beauty. And someone might say, well,
Yes.
I'm not a 10 for sure. And it's like, no, it's not about that. It's
Right.
about your love for yourself. And that can be a 10 every day, even when you get on the scale and there's an extra pound that you didn't want, or maybe 5 that you are looking for. You can still be a 10 because of how you have decided to feel about yourself.
Yeah.
You've decided to treat yourself because of something external, because even weight is kind of external, to us.
Mhm.
So I love that. I love
it really
that.
is. Thank you.
You're welcome. What else just tell us a couple more things that maybe you help with people as they're getting to, unlocking their highest potential. And I meant to ask you this question. How do you define highest potential?
Well, when I went on my journey and I came out on top, everything changed. Everything went well for me, people were asking me to come into leadership. And I felt confident to do that then. I got into a job where I had to go speak in front of people. I was petrified of public speaking, but I didn't allow my fear to control it. I allowed my faith to control it. And so there's so many, issues that we do develop along those lines. But the main thing is we have to, I'm going off a little bit on this, but we have to learn to laugh at ourselves. We just have to learn to laugh at ourselves on a daily basis. And, I'm going to ask you to repeat that question again, Lorraine, because I forgot.
No, that's okay. I was asking, how do you define highest potential?
Okay. All right. So that's where I was heading with that when I stopped and said about laughing. Okay. So here's the thing. What I always share is John Maxwell, who is a famous author, famous writer, famous speaker. One thing he says is that when you want to make it to the peak of the mountain, you have to let go of the baggage at the bottom. Okay. And so that's what I did. I let go of the baggage at the bottom. And then when I was at the peak, and then when I started building that 7, 8, 9, 10 on that scale, then I got to the bottom. That's where I reached my highest potential. It wasn't at the peak of the mountain. Because you got to come down off that mountain. You got to come down off that mountain. So that's why I'm also a visionary coach, because I can see things now after going through all this that people can't see. So I get paid to see the future for people as far as their business and personal development and helping them out. I don't claim to be God. I don't claim to be God whatsoever.
That's good, because we typically don't let people on the podcast who claim to be God.
Yeah. No.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm at my highest potential right now. Okay. I feel like I'm getting there though. I'm climbing that mountain because I want to reach my highest potential probably within the next 2 years, to be honest with you. And I want to retire.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But the way that you reach your highest potential, one, you got to find yourself. Okay. Two, you got to stop being judgmental on others.
Come on.
Three, you have to be positive. You have to be optimistic.
Mhm.
You have to let go and remove all those limiting self-beliefs, what
Yes.
people put on you throughout your childhood.
Mhm.
And five, I think that's five.
Yes.
You have to believe that you can do it. And that
I
is
love
God's
that.
calling for you. And if it's God's calling for you, you go for it. Just go for
Amen.
it.
Amen.
You know,
That's so
that's
good.
a great
That's so
question.
good.
Yes.
That's so good because I think that there's such an important point that we have to believe that we can do it. And if it is God's calling for us, then we can do it.
Yes.
He created us to do it. And so even when the obstacles are there,
Right.
those are stronger and they're not fun. Let's be honest. We don't like obstacles. We just like to get to the mountain.
Mhm.
But the obstacles strengthen us.
You're
and
right.
they give us wisdom and they give us context and they give us stories to tell and they give us all of these things. But for a believer, really for everybody, but we understand it, that for a believer, our highest potential is what God has imagined for us,
Yeah.
not what we can imagine for ourselves, because he's like, your imagination can't even grasp what I can do with you and through you if you just surrender to me. So I just think that might be the biggest secret of all, is to latch onto God's purpose and say, okay, God, I was telling my women's group this Sunday, like, get a pencil and a piece of paper. I like pencils. People like pens. Something to write with and a piece of paper, and just say, God, what do you want me to do today? What do you want me to do this week? What is it that you have for me to do? Because he's not going to tell you everything, because that would scare most of us. But he'll give you what you need right now, and he will give it to you. You don't have to like conjure it up or make it up or hope and all that. So I love what you said there. As we start to wrap it up, first of all, I'll ask Onetia if she has any comments or questions, and then we'll just kind of we'll fast forward all the way to really, you've talked a little bit about where you are now, but I want to just make sure that we let people know how they can contact you or what services you have and all the things that you do that makes your life so full of potential and that you're living it.
Yes, yes.
Sure, absolutely.
I love the things that you share with us on ways to how to get to our highest potential. And one thing that stood out to me a lot, and you've kind of said it even earlier about letting baggage go. I think last week's episode we talked about that, bag lady, letting your baggage go.
Exactly.
But, letting go of these limiting self-beliefs. Sometimes we like to have excuses, really, to say, oh, I don't have enough money, that's why I can't do this thing. Or, my friends aren't supporting my business, or nobody's liking my post on social media. But those are all external factors. And so they're not really stopping you and holding you back from reaching your highest potential. Our own self-beliefs, the lies that we've believed about ourselves, identifying these things, where they came from, uprooting them, taking those thoughts captive and saying, God, take these things away from me and help me to believe what it is you say about me. What is it that you say about me? And I've talked about this with my kids. That was one of our discussions last night. But what is it? What do you think God thinks about you? What does Jesus feel about you or believe?
Oh,
and even with us talking, and I love hearing kids' minds of it. I believe he thinks I'm smart and I'm this, but. And I said, no, let's not put the buts in there. Even the but, the but can be a limiting self-belief.
Yeah.
He doesn't love us just, when we meet everything that he tells us to do. He loves us, period. Exclamation point. He loves us with an everlasting love. So having to, that battle of fighting because sometimes it's our norm. It's what we've been conditioned to do. especially when you didn't grow up in a home with that. You were taught to even dream. You know, you were taught to sometimes just work and keep your head down and do as I say, not as I do. And so I find that even for myself, that was probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had to face is my own self-belief. How am I limiting myself? How am I also with that boxing God in and limiting his power and his ability
Yes.
to bless me? Because then that's the other piece. It's not even that I don't think I can do this thing, but am I praying, God, do just enough for me? Or am I really praying, God, you know, you can do anything. So let me pray and dream big.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
this is your will for me. God, help me also not to limit you and what you can do in my life.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, just Terri, as we close here, what are the things that you're doing now that you couldn't have imagined, you know, 38 or 40 or 50 years ago? You could not have imagined that this would be your life, and that you're just loving, and that God is using to fulfill his purpose and his plans for you. And then how can people reach out to you and all of those things as well?
That's a great question. If somebody would have told me 40 years ago that I'd be doing everything that we've talked about tonight and being on stages in front of 8 to 10,000 people, I would have told you you were a stark raving maniac. or you know, God's calling you to open a domestic violence organization from scratch. I'd be like, you're nuts. No, I'm petrified of public speaking. So, you know, so I have to laugh at God when I say those things. The biggest thing, I want people to know that I'm here for them. And, you know, I love coaching. I love coaching individuals and seeing the light bulb moments go off, you know, when they connected the dots, like, oh my gosh, that's why that's why I am the way I am all these years, you know? And if you're stuck in life and you haven't been able to get out in your 30s, sorry, you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, you need help. Listen, I got help, and it was a great adventure. And so that's what I do. The other thing is too, I love being on stages. So anyone listening out there that can get me on a stage at your church or an event, I would really appreciate it. And I fly all over the United States. So I would love to make a connection with you. I speak at women's retreats. I do Christmas programs. I teach Sunday school. I'll do whatever it needs to be to get the word out there about empowerment and changing your life for Jesus.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Amen.
And buy my book. Buy my book, because what I shared with y'all about my husband, I met my husband. Are you ready for this? I met my husband in 7 hours. I prayed a prayer at 10 o'clock in the morning, and God answered my prayer at 7 o'clock that night. And I know we don't have time to go into that story, but let me tell you, this is a life-changing story that made it all over the world.
I think we can make time. Listen,
we can make a little time.
Listen, I better figure out if you met him. For my girl here, did you meet him at the pet store or at the health food store? Because
I met him on the phone.
Okay. Tell us about that. We have a little bit of time.
Okay. So I prayed at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I said, dear Lord, I am tired of dating around the church. I you know, people like me, I don't like them, or, you know, whatever the case might be, you know, we're not compatible. So I need you to take over, because I feel like I'm just too much in control here. So I gave God a list about this long, right? I'm not kidding you. And I said, I know you're going to have trouble fulfilling it, but, you know, please just, you know, help them to come soon. And so I asked God at the end, I said, please bring me somebody with a bad back. Okay, now why did I pray that? I prayed that because I've been so let's just put it this way. I've been in more than 10 car accidents, okay? So I need somebody somebody that can slow down with me and not speed up when I can't. And so I said, God, please, again, let him come soon. And so at 7 o'clock that night, I got a phone call from this a very enthusiastic guy named Scott. And I was leading the 30-something singles group in our church in Indianapolis, Indiana. And he was leading the group in Chicago. And so what they were trying to do is get me to come up there and share how we got so successful so quickly and why, why we were bringing in 100 people, And so I said, okay. So over the 45-minute conversation, I felt very comfortable. And then at the end of the conversation, I said, go ahead and just, throw me some dates out that you think you want me to come up and speak. And I'll be glad to, I'll be able to drive up there. No problem. But then he asked me the question, so what are you doing this weekend? And I said, well, I'm going to a party tomorrow, but we're going to play volleyball, but I can only play a couple games because I have a bad back. He says, wow, we're going to play volleyball tomorrow in Chicago. And I just recently had a back injury. Girls, you know what happened? That phone went like this. And I was like, well, you know what? I've got to go. My dinner's on the table. And you just give me a call when you want me to come up. And I'll be more than happy to help you guys get the Chicago group off the ground. But I really got to go. Bye-bye. My roommate at the time, she says, Terri, you look like you've seen a ghost. And I said, oh my gosh, I just talked to my future husband.
Wow.
And we're going to be married 30 years this month, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. He's an amazing guy. I love him dearly.
That's awesome.
Hey, we got to be specific with our prayer. We got to be specific with our prayers, okay?
Yeah. Now, are you familiar with Casting Crowns Christian Band?
I am. One of my
Casting Crowns.
My second favorite after.
So I get to. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I get to share the stage with them through a vision I had, and it had all the vision that I had in my head, and it came through beautifully. I got to share the stage with them, 8,000 people, and deliver a message of hope and healing in a domestic violence world. And they're my friends. Yeah. I love Casting Crowns to pieces.
That's awesome.
It's a long story. It's in my book. Yeah.
Yep. Get the book, y'all. And it looks like Ebony Wilkins is going to win the book from you.
Yes.
Let's see. Ebony is going to win the free book.
So one thing I want to mention.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Ebony. One thing I want to mention, if you want to order my book, you have to go to my website. And I think Lorraine, you have my website up there, don't you?
Yes. We're going to drop that in the comments so you can click on it and just go straight there. We do have the banner as well, but we'll drop it in the comments so that people actually can click and not have to try to spell it out.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll do that. There it is in the comments now.
Love to sign one for y'all.
And see that. Then you can click. You can see all of the services that she has, coaching and workshops.
Oh wait, you've got a V by it.
In the chat, it just highlights the HTTP.
Yeah.
So
that's not the right website. You've got a. Oh no, I thought I saw a V. That's why I was questioning.
No, it was, but the system makes it so you can just click on the HTTP part.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened because we got it right.
I got you.
Yeah, it works though. It works.
But I'll drop it again. Oh,
you're awesome, ladies. You're awesome.
That's that producer in the background handling the business. So, well,
okay.
Thank you so much. And we will, hey, if you're interested, please get the book and go to the website and do that. And then you'll find all of her other services as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Terri, so much for being here, for joining us, and that great ending story just capped it all off, you know. And so we're super excited to have you, and we look forward to even reading the book and hearing more of your story. And we just pray for your ministry and all that you're doing, that you are able
Yes.
to continue to impact men and women for the kingdom. And so thank you so much for being our guest today on our season opener, season 6. God bless you. So
It's my pleasure. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Um, Onita, that was a great episode.
Totally.
And anybody who wants to join us on, I don't have that link. Let me drop that link. The Afterwise, we're going to talk to Terri for a few more minutes. If you have any questions that you want to ask her, then you can join us back there. We'll be there for a few minutes. Just click that link after we end the stream. And the Bible tells us that anything that we do, we should do it with all our might, as unto the Lord. And I think that's really the essence of what Terri was sharing with us today, that our highest potential is not about what the world says we should be doing. It's about what God has already planned for us, even before we were created in the womb. He's like, I knew you before your mother knew, before you were in there, I knew you, which means he didn't just kind of have a casual relationship with us once we came out. He's like, oh, okay, well, she's born, so let me go ahead and try to do some stuff. He's like, no, I already had a plan. I created you specifically. And that means I have a plan and a purpose for you. And, you know, part of my mission is to help women walk in their purpose, embrace their singleness, walk in their purpose, and prepare for the partner they desire. It's a threefold mission, with the understanding that what God has for us undergirds all of that. Obviously, from Terri's story about how she met her husband, God was in that.
Yes.
That means he had a plan for that. You know, he knew what she was going to ask for, and he knew what the needs were, and that phone call was going to happen. And so don't rush the process. I know it's hard. I've been praying for, you know, she said she prayed for 7 hours. I mean, she prayed, and 7 hours later, here he is. I've been praying for 30 plus years, and he hasn't come yet. But my time, God's timing for me is not the same as God's timing for her. Mm-hmm. And so we have to recognize that there is a plan and a purpose outside of maybe that thing that we want, marriage or children or whatever it is that you may desire in your life. God has a plan for the place where you are right now. Yes. So let's live our highest potential in that place, and then be prepared when he moves us to the next place.
Amen.
So we thank you all for watching, and who are those here now who will watch later, those who will listen on Spotify and Amazon Music or iHeartRadio. Those links we dropped them in the description, as well as Terri's book and her website. Well, the website where you can get the book. And until next time, choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless.
Good night, y'all.